Part of the reluctance, perhaps, amongst establishment people to metaphorically slap down younger people who think that they know everything about the way that the world works is that they'll be regarded as being bigots. They'll be regarded as not being kind. I mean, sometimes accusations of hate speech are leveled against people for, having a different opinion about immigration or a different opinion about something that a generation ago would have been regarded as being well within the bounds of a liberal democratic discourse. Since you're a social psychologist, how does one sort of rebalance that power dynamic?
Well, because we're in Australia, I would say grow a pair. Right now, I would say I have faced enormous animosity because I'm plain spoken about these things. And we have to be willing to have people dislike us because if we keep giving in, our society is going to be completely destroyed. So someone calls you a bigot, oh well, you know you're not. Don't and of course, please do not try to explain to them why you're not. Don't tell them what an ally you are. Don't be an ally to anybody. Take every cause as it comes. If it's a genuine cause, it will not mind you looking closely and seeing what's going on. It will not mind you looking out for your own interests as well. It will not mind you thinking, okay, let me have a think about this. It's only when someone is trying to indoctrinate you that they expect you to give in, to submit to whatever they say, or they'll call you names. Now, how is that not abusive? You must submit to everything I say to you, that everything I want from you, even if it hurts you, or else I'm going to punish you. For me, that's the very definition of abuse.
You used an interesting word there, Dina, ally. Don't try to explain why you're an ally. This has become, 5 years ago, people didn't talk about the importance of allyship. What do you make of allyship?
To me, allyship is tolerance. It's saying, I'm going to ignore all the details and any questions that I have so that you won't dislike me or look at me as someone who's narrow minded. I explain very frankly to people I'm no one's ally, I'm a social scientist. If you want me to support your cause, show me the facts, stand back and let me look. Um, it's so interesting because one of the big tactics that I talk about is misattribution. And I see the woke using this so much. Misattribution is putting a positive spin, a positive label on a negative behavior. Saying you want to be someone's ally, that sounds like a nice thing, doesn't it? It sounds like, oh, yeah, you're understanding. In actuality, what it means is you ignore everything that shows that your values clash, that your values are inconsistent, that what you're supporting may actually be harming you. It reminds me of the British being allied to the Soviet Union during the Second World War. We had absolutely nothing in common with Stalin. He was such a force for wrong, and yet we ignored it because we were fighting together against the Nazis.
Mm.
At our parents.
There's also a certain condescension in it, isn't there? I mean, there's something I find uncomfortable about the notion of being an ally to a member of a minority group, because there's something almost paternalistic about the notion. Like, rather than respecting you as an individual with whom I can speak freely, as someone who is capable of hearing what I have to say, judging it on its merits, and then giving as good as you get, I am supposed to treat you as someone who is solely in a position of schooling me about how I should be the best ally, for fear that I should hurt you in some way, and I have to tread on eggshells in order to do so. That for me is part of the concern about allyship, that it becomes essentially a subservient position to the person who's insisting on it.
Well, it's two things. It's the person who's demanding someone be a good ally. It means you're supposed to accept what I say with no assessment of whether it's true or not, whether it harms you or not, whether it is going to take us into a bad place. You're just supposed to be quiet and clap whenever I say I want to do something. But at the same time, And any group you're allied to, you kind of look at them as your pet. You know, they're almost like you pat them on the head, because in order to be an ally to somebody, you almost have to think they're not important enough to really alter your quality of life. And it's just not true. We just need to lose the whole concept. If you want to support people who do things, think a certain way or whatever, do so. But by calling yourself an ally, it means there's no discernment and there's a submission and a lack of honesty on your part about how that person's values, lifestyle, what they're demanding is impacting you.
Don't worry, Dina, we're not going to be clapping along. We're just going to do jazz hands because claps can be triggering to people these days, you know. Exactly. You said something interesting there. You said we have to accept what they say, whether it's true or not. But truth itself is now something that is questioned because their truth might be a lived experience, and that might give them standing to talk about something that you're not allowed to talk about. So this is another thing that is coming up increasingly in, I suppose, what you might call the culture wars, which is we can't really, you know, a white person can't have a conversation with a person of color about police brutality against people of color because the white person hasn't experienced the lived indignity of being oppressed by racist police. You know, someone who doesn't have a grandmother who was in the Holocaust can't talk to someone who did about the nature of, you know, Judaism or whatever it might be, or anti-Semitism, because they don't have the lived experience.